I would really like your comments on the future opportunities and the challenges in supporting the industry in Australia, Simon. And I often quote CSIRO estimates about export potential for the AP sector and other various estimates about the future that is available to farmers or producers in this space. I wondered if you would like to comment on what you see are the opportunities and challenges for the AP sector in 2024, what you think the feds should be doing, what the states should be doing, and what local government can do.
Australia has enormous opportunity and potential across a number of areas. First of all, we have enormous amounts of land and our capacity to grow things at scale. So, when you look at that and say, what are these alternatives that we could be using? Then you've got to say, well, Australia is in a fantastic position because it has this land, it has this opportunity to grow these crops, whether they're navy beans or farmer beans or hemp seeds or, lupins, whatever it is. It also has an abundance of potentially renewable energy. So the opportunity for Australia to invest in managing Scope 3 emissions in your whole supply chain around food production and produce food eventually that is going to meet government requirements about what's gone into the production of that in terms of emissions and so on. Tremendous potential for Australia to be world leaders. When you combine that with our R&D capability and our scientific capability, which is world leading in many areas, we do have an opportunity for Australia to take a lead role in the global production of alternative proteins. In the area of alternative proteins that we're really just beginning to see emerging is in what we call precision fermentation. So the ability to use effectively brewing technology, but to isolate specific ingredients and to put them in a medium with something that we know replicates itself, whether that's a yeast or algae or bacteria or whatever, that can actually grow quantity of that isolated ingredient, is part of the future of protein supply in the world. Because in principle and theory, and now proven in practice, you can create an infinite quantity of whey proteins, casein proteins, other forms of plant proteins, fats, so on, oils, by literally creating them from individual cells and individual ingredients. And so that makes sense to me as a future for the planet, to be able to produce countless applications of something as important as lactoferrin, a key protein from human breast milk as well as animal milk that is vital for building up, resistance in infants, is in huge demand, is extremely expensive, very little is produced. We can produce that volume in terms of a market that could be worth tens, hundreds of billions of dollars to Australia in the future. So that's precision fermentation. Of course, we could say the same about things like cultivated meat, which is still a little bit to be developed in terms of scalability and commercialization. Well, Australia has all of the necessary bits to lead on this, but coming back to your point about what government, a lot of these things cannot be advanced or won't be advanced by relying on individual manufacturers to take all the risk, to try to finance it all themselves with large-scale infrastructure that they might need in order to enable the success of their particular company or that particular industry. And we see that with things like precision fermentation, but we also see that with the diversity of ingredients. Governments need to incentivize by providing input into building large-scale facilities. We're seeing Canada do this and getting leaps and bounds ahead of Australia in terms of investment into building these facilities that others can then use as co-manufacturing facilities, or providing that diversity of ingredients. The same with precision fermentation. We've got some very good examples of one company in Australia called Fern, who are developing co-manufacturing facilities for testing up to the scalability level for precision fermented products, but they themselves are not a manufacturer. They're providing that infrastructure. And the model they've used is looking at building these small-scale testing facilities at the cost of about $25 million. And we need about 10, 12, 15, 18 of those around Australia. Whereas previously we've relied on an individual company trying to find venture capital funding or whatever to build a $100 million, $300 million facility all on their own. And that isn't working. So if you think governments leaning into the kind of support through investment with the university sector, with the private sector, to build these co-manufacturing and testing facilities, we'll see massive advances in innovation and development.
I wondered if you would just surmise what food Food Frontiers focus is for this next 12 months?
We're just about to publish our State of Industry report for 2023.
Yep.
We produced one in 2019 and a bigger one in 2020. So I think the industry government is crying out for detailed economic analysis of what the reality is of the last 3 years and where we currently are in terms of consumer demand, growth in the sector, jobs, employability, economic opportunity. We're obviously focused on that because a particular part of that is what we call the path forward. What is that, what we call the path forward? How do we then accelerate this? Because what we do see is that, now I'll give you an example of plant-based meat. With plant-based meat, it's very much being put to the consumer to make a conscious choice about whether I choose to buy this or consume this. And they will do so according to their own ethical position around what foods they eat, around their environmental condition, or perhaps around health, and wanting to make healthy nutritional choice. What we think the path forward is, ultimately, is where we see a lot of these alternative protein products normalized into our everyday food choices. In other words, I'm just going to buy food or eat food that I choose because it tastes good, it's nutritious, it's healthy. If it does good for the planet, fantastic. If the animals are harmed in a correct way, if that matters to me, then great as well. But we see it normalised. What we're trying to do this year is take that step forward. The conference is very much going to focus on a number of themes. It's going to focus on, obviously, sustainability and health, but it's also going to focus on, food service, institutional food service, in the way that is driving consumer interest in a lot of these products. But it's also going to focus on potentially, government interventions. We're looking around the world at what different governments, some of them progressive, some of them otherwise, are doing to have both the incentives but also the regulations required to advance this industry. So the conference is going to be really exciting. It's going to be a lot more forward-looking and a lot more provocative in terms of some of the potential. So we're hoping it's going to be bigger and better than what you enjoyed last year.
Thank you, Dr. Simon Eassom. You run an amazing organisation in Food Frontier, and I really look forward to continuing my friendship with you and my association with your incredible work in this space. And thank you for your time today. Really appreciate you being number one on this little range of podcasts. See you soon, Simon.
Thank you, Lisa, and so much thanks to you and what you're doing.